Hello everyone. Welcome to the Cyber Vibes channel. In this video, I would be discussing the binary number system, the microprocessor of a computer. How a microprocessor becomes so fast. What are analog and digital signals? What is the frequency of a wave? The clock speed of a microprocessor. High-level languages. The compiler and so on. And, hey, the motto of our channel is, knowledge for all. So, let's begin to understand computers by knowing about their language. Well, I have to say that we can understand all the languages that a computer can process, but the little chip can understand only one language, and that is zeros and ones. Wondering what it is? The binary or machine language, as we say it, is the only language that an electronic chip or processor can understand. These are also called low-level languages. Before we deep dive into the languages that a computer can work on, let's know some facts about the microprocessor chip, or the computer's brain, or CPU as we call it. The computer chip is one of the most complex and sophisticated inventions of mankind, so complex that, until a decade back, the technology of making chips was limited to a handful of organizations. The chip is made up of tiny electronic devices called transistors that are embedded in billions in number on a modern computer chip, which would be 2 mm thick and couple of square inches wide in size. By the way, the mobile phone's microprocessor will be smaller and with lesser computing power than a computer's. Now, you may be wondering how so many transistors can be embedded into such a small space? Sorry. We are not going to talk more about that, because it is complex. It would be fascinating to know that the number of transistors was only in few thousands in the first chip about 50 years ago, to the billion plus transistors that we have now per inch two of a processor. From micrometers, down to nanometers, and on the brink of narrowing down even further to picometers, and beyond in the future. Have a look at the scale chart to understand this in detail. Let's move on. So, most of you might know what an electromagnetic wave is. It's a signal that can be analog or digital in form. The frequency of these waves are measured using the unit known as hertz. If a wave has a 1 Hz frequency, that means it would change its state, or phase, from one position to another once in a second. If this is 50 times a second, its frequency is 50 Hz, and so on. A good example is our home electricity frequency, which depending on the part of the world you are in, varies from 50 to 60 Hz. You can even see these numbers written on your power adapters. Can you guess how fast a modern computer chip can process data? Well, they have an internal clock like we have a pacemaker beside our heart, but the only difference is it's too fast. So fast that it can make the processor work on millions of operations in a second. To be precise, the clock frequency of a modern microprocessor chip would be in the gigahertz ranges, 1 gigahertz being 10 to the power of 9. If the CPU has a clock speed of 2.5 GHz, then it can execute 2.5 billion cycles per second. I believe you now understand the secret behind how a computer can process the data so fast, even though it can understand and process only in zeros and ones. Okay, let's discuss more on the other types of languages that a computer can process. Well, these may not necessarily be languages only, but could be files, web pages, images, and so on that we see. Ultimately, they are represented and processed as the binary code. Whatever programs or applications that we have, or interact with on the computer or mobiles, are written in some computer programming languages, including the operating system itself. These languages are known as high-level languages. C, C++, Java, Python and so on, are few examples of these. High-level languages are easy for us to read and understand, but they cannot be understood in this format by a machine, so this code or program is run through a compiler software that converts the code into more understandable assembly language format, or maybe directly into the machine language comprising of zeros and ones. But even this would not be enough. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there are two kinds of electromagnetic signals or waves, namely the analog and digital formats. The digital format is the one that any electronic device can ultimately work on, but another device in the circuit board of an electronic device already takes care of that problem solved. Let's have a look at the binary form representations of a few digits and alphabets. Too lengthy. Is it not? Humans don't find it very comfortable working on binary language, but the computer chip understands only this language, and is able to process it very fast, as it does have to focus only on switching signal as per the binary digit, just 2 states. Yet so fast. So, wrapping up the informative video about the computer chip's language, and its functioning. Hope I was able to share some knowledge about this topic, and was interesting. Let me know in the comments. Please don't forget to share, subscribe, hit like for the videos. Click the bell icon to stay tuned for more interesting videos about computers and associated internet technologies soon.